Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome to Brews and Reviews, and today I gotta pay respect to one of the most influential rappers of all time, mfdoom, and there's only one beer left. Rappers screaming all in our ears like we are deaf. I'm using a beer from my last video, the Fantastic Haze Imperial IPA. It is the last one, so I'm sipping on it again. Here we go. Let's get into this man's music. So this is a bit of a different format today. It's not gonna be the typical type of review or countdown that I normally do. I just gotta say something and pay tribute to the man and point out why he was such a great and influential artist in the rap game. Daniel Dumile, born in January of 1971, passed away October 31st of 2020 on Halloween, and we didn't know about it until 2 months later when the news broke to ruin our New Year's Eve. This dude died just like the villain that he was, but he was a villain in a good way. He was the villain that we root for. He was the villain that was so much cooler than the hero. But what he really was a villain to the industry, because he really shook things up after his label dropped him when he was in the group KMD with fellow group member and his brother Sub Rock. The label dropped him after they died and shelved a really good album that had already been recorded called Black Bastards. Great songs off of that. Check out early mfdoom, or at that time as he was known, Zevlub X. And at that time, in his grieving for his brother and his label doing him dirty like that, mfdoom decided that the major label was not for him, and he chose to go his own route and come up through the underground. And there wasn't even a path to success for underground rappers until he did it. And he created this new villainous persona, actually several new personas, and so many things are revolutionary about Doom. But one thing that always amazes me is that his first 5 albums were all dropped under different aliases, and not just like he was saying different names in his rhyme for himself, like was very common in the mid-90s to come up with different aliases like that, Method Man, Johnny Blaze, Hot Nicks, that kind of thing. No, he was putting that on the cover of his albums, a completely different name. So people couldn't even recognize the name that he established unless they were digging deep, unless they were true fans. And that's something that a major label never would have allowed, but he found success in doing that. The label, of course, is always thinking about the brand. This is the brand of the artist. They can't even let them do songs that don't sound like their brand and their persona that's built around them. But mfdoom built a brand by creating all these alter egos and these different personas and all these different names that were dropping projects by him. Think about that. First 5 projects, all different names. We've got the KMD album, Mr. Hood, as Zevlub X. Then next up was Operation Doomsday as mfdoom, where he introduced that persona. Of course, famous cover, got it in my background here with the illustration of him in the mask. Third album, Take Me to Your Leader, King Geedorah. Fourth album, Vaudeville Villain as Viktor Vaughn. And then finally, the 5th album, Mad Villainy, you already know, by Mad Villain. Not to mention his persona on his instrumental albums as simply Metal Fingers Doom, which was different from the MF that stood for Metal Face Doom as the rapper. That was truly innovative. I really got into Doom like many people did with Mad Villainy, and I remember seeing that cover because I was kind of familiar with who he was in Operations Doomsday, and I was like, that kind of looks like the illustration of the guy in the mask off Operation Doomsday. And then I listened to it, I listened to songs off that, I was like, yeah, he sounds the same, but this is Mad Villain, this is not mfdoom, so what's going on? And then I figured out about the Viktor Viktor Vaughn and all that other stuff as well. And Madvillainy dropping in 2004, to me, that was a revolutionary year in hip-hop, and mfdoom was at the forefront of that. We look at a few years like golden ages or just explosive, genre-changing kind of years, and I'm talking about 87, 88, 94, 95, and 2004 to me is one of those because it was the underground revolution, and mfdoom was at the very top tier of ushering that underground revolution in. At the time, we had downloading music online illegally at the time that had been around for a couple years, and artists started to figure out how to use that, as well as Amazon gaining prevalence where you could buy CDs of people that you had never heard of and never would have had access to otherwise. I did a lot of that downloaded from Napster or LimeWire, it may have been at the time, and then going on Amazon to find the albums. I remember I used to have to drive to Chicago to get these underground albums. I couldn't get them where I'm from, but then Amazon just opened up all kinds of new doors, and people like mfdoom and his early albums were now available to rap fans like me. And Doom released 4 albums that year, which might not sound like a crazy feat today in the age of streaming. We've got Griselda dropping multiple projects through the year and lots of underground rappers doing that. But at the time, I mean, we were used to where labels had to approve things. They had to book studio time. They had to hire multiple producers. They had to get people to mix this stuff. And then the label had to manufacture it, get it distributed, get it out to record stores. So release dates back then were something that would continually get pushed back. And we would be lucky, very lucky, to get one project a year from our favorite artists. It was usually 2 or 3 years in between projects because that's just the way the distribution system worked. So to drop 4 albums in 2004 was itself revolutionary. But not only that, 2 of those 4 albums, and I'm talking about Food and Madvillainy, are widely considered to be his best, most creative work that he did just months apart. And not only are they considered to be seminal points in his career and some of the best music that he made, but they are top rap albums of all time. Look at any list from lots of different rap reviewers, rap radio hosts, rap websites, and you'll see Food and Madvillainy on those top lists of all time. So it's crazy that he was able to be that productive with something that connected with so many people in that era just months apart. And those albums and his other projects had a sound that was uniquely him. Not only did he not look like anybody else, but he didn't sound like anybody else either, especially with the really intricate rhyme schemes that he came up with. In the mid and late 90s, people were experimenting with rhyme schemes, and you started to hear a lot more multisyllabic rhymes and inner rhymes throughout people's verses. For example, take Inspector Deck on Triumph, coming out in 1997, where he says, "I bomb atomically, Socrates' philosophies and hypotheses can't define how I be dropping these." That's a great flow, and that's a great rhyme scheme. That's a great verse, one of the best verses of all time. But it's ABC, ABC, ABC. But then we've got Doom coming along, who has multiple different rhyme schemes and switches throughout one verse. And for example, he might do something instead of ABC, ABC. He's got ABCDEF, ABCDEF. So adding that many more rhymes to the flow to make it sound that much smoother. For example, the rhyme scheme that I'm quoting here is in Figaro, where he says, "The rest is empty with no brain but the clever nerd, the best MC with no chain you ever heard." Basically, every word in each of those lines rhyming with the word placed at the equivalent spot in the next line. And then there's his crazy production style. Before Doom, not many people were sampling these obscure samples and weird sounds and stuff from cartoons. The label would have never allowed that, at least not a major. And he flipped all that weird stuff that somehow sounded great in the context of his album and the character that he was creating. But not only did he have those obscure samples, he also had some really well-known samples. And one of my pet peeves in rap is when people use samples that have been sampled already on really big songs. It's like, you can't make that your own. Why are you even attempting to do that when you know so-and-so artist that's bigger than you already flipped that sample on their track and it was a huge hit, and that's all we can think of when we hear your new song? Doom, however, he could flip these old samples that we've heard on other songs and really make it his own. And I'm talking about Hoe Cakes or Antimatter. Antimatter, I've heard Nas and RZA flip that sample, two gods of rap. But to me, Doom did it the best and made it his own. He also did it first in that case, but it's still the greatest song. But I'm also talking about Deep Fried Frenz, and I love that Houdini song. I actually got to see Houdini. They were a little bit before my time. I'm not quite that old, but I saw Houdini do it live, and it's a great Houdini song. But when I heard Doom do it, that's his song. It doesn't matter that they did it first. Doom made that sample his own on Deep Fried Frenz. And while you got the obscure samples and the known samples that he's making his own, he had such a versatile production style where he could do the smooth shit. Imagine Rhymes Like Dimes and how smooth that beat is and how he just flows over that like butter, all the way to grimy, hardcore, New York 90s style beats like My Favorite Ladies, which is probably my favorite Doom beat of all time, by the way. If you haven't heard My Favorite Ladies, because it is a bit obscure, it's not on those famous albums, go check that song out. And then there's completely wild shit that he produced, another kind of obscure one that he did with MF Grimm on their EP MF, called No Snakes Alive, where the beat is just completely awkward to flow to, but he handles his own beat very well, as usual. And then there's these lines. Everybody has their own MF Doom lyrics that they like to quote. Something that they find funny, or something that they find philosophical, or something that speaks to them, or just a way that he has of saying something normal that he flips completely different. I know that's a personal experience for everybody, but here's some of my favorites. I just gotta go through them. Rhymes Like Dimes, he says, "Only in America could you find a way to make a healthy buck and still keep your attitude on self-destruct." On the drop, he says, "Remember me, God, clean Timbs with Emery board. He only came to save the game like a memory card." On Saliva, "A real shuck and jiver. Vaughn never been a duck and diver. He spit on the mic, yuck, saliva." And we'll be right back after these messages. Fellas, grab your nutsacks. Chicks, squeeze your breastises. We ain't all grown, it's still funny, like going to the store with your own rainbow money. Since that had an insane flow, sonny. On Doomsday, ever since the womb, till I'm back where my brother went, that's what my tomb will say. Right above my government, Doomalay. Either unmarked or engraved, hey, who's to say? Slow it down some, no split, clown bum. Your gold hits sound dumb, hold it now, crown 'em. Side effects are similar to sugar pill. Whoever go next on the mic, he put a booger ill. And made his exit on some calm shit, begged him on the regular for kegs of more Vomitspit. Dog doggone it, do the statistics. How he busts lyrics is too futuristic for ballistics and far too eccentric for forensics. I dedicate this mix to Sub-Rock, the hip-hop Hendrix. He wears a mask so when he dogs his face, each and every race could absorb the bass. Sing a song of slap-happy crappiness. He came to blow like it was strapped to his nappy chest. And I could go on and on with all the eccentricity that he put into his lyrics and all the quotable lines that this man said, especially how he started a verse. It was just great how he started a verse. But to close, I want to talk about what a great collaborator he was, and not with just producers. We know his work with Danger Doom was great, and of course his work with Madlib was great. And as a producer himself, he produced for Bishop Nehru and Master Ace and did some great things there without even getting in front of the mic a lot of the time. But I want to talk about his rap collabs and what a versatile artist that he could work with everybody from De La Soul to Ghostface to Talib Kweli to Gorillaz to 07 to Slug to Aesop Rock. For a man that never really wanted you to see the true man behind the artist, just the artist and who he was, he sure did make a connection with these other musicians, a human connection. You can hear it in their songs. And of course, a personal, emotional connection with the fans. And I'm going to talk about these collabs because I don't need to rehash what's already been said. You've seen all the lists of his greatest songs. You already know those songs. Like Doomsday, One Beer, Curls, Accordion, LickUpon, Let Me Watch, Gazillion Ear, Beef Rap, El Chupa Nibre, Rap Snitch Knishes. You know these songs. So maybe you don't know these songs that are on other people's albums or these guest appearances that he had. So I'm going to put those on there. And by the way, all of these songs that I've mentioned in this entire video will be in the description. So if you need to go back and find what I'm talking about, then look in the description. The top 10 mfdoom collabs in no particular order are Rock Cocaine Flow with De La Soul, Fly That Knot with Talib Kweli, November Has Come with the Gorillaz, Victory Laps with Ghostface, Biochemical Equation with RZA, Somersault Remix with 07, When the Lights Go Out with Atmosphere, Get Her Done with Jake One, Put Your Quarter Up with Mole Men, Aesop Rock, and Slug, Highs and Lows with Prime. I don't know how that was just on the bonus edition, by the way. That should have been on the main album. And that's 10, but I'll throw in one more bonus, and that's the Gas Face with Third Base that pretty much put him on the scene originally as a musician, his very first song to get out there, and now here we are with a great legacy, all kinds of material. You could dig for a long time and not get through all of MF Doom's material, even going back to Monster Island Czar's stuff, the stuff he did with MF Grimm, all of his different instrumental albums, and all of his personas and everything that he put out there. It's a dense catalog, and for that, I'm thankful. It feels complete. I wasn't counting on a new MF Doom album in 2021 anyway, although it would be interesting if there's some unreleased material. I'd like to hear that, but he has left us enough. It is one of these things that doesn't happen very often. So he died relatively young at 49, but he left us with enough material that we can live off that and not need anything else forever because it's complete. It is a complete and thorough discography. I don't think he left anything on the table. Rest in peace, villain.